I just don't see a world in which Johnny is not called up for these March friendlies. You have to give him one more look.
Yeah, I agree with you. In this March window, he does deserve another look for sure.
He deserves one final chance with the U.S. in March to prove to Pochettino that he can be in that roster for the World Cup. Hello, sunshine. I'm Stu Holden, and welcome to the State of the Union podcast, where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. This show will be talking Weston McKennie staying hot, MLS coaches abroad, Johnny Cardoso's comeback, Derby Day, Jedi's playing time, and so much more. But first, joining me as always is my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mosse, a soccer savant and a Fox Soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire. How you doing, Mosse? Good, bud?
I'm doing well. Now, Stu, I don't want you to get jealous looking at these bobblehead dolls of myself and Alexi. I am told there's one of you on the way.
Oh, I heard about this. Just for now, can we just turn this Alexi one around while he's not here? He's staring at us now. Okay, even better. How do we feel about that?
Much better.
Well, we know where Alexi was, in fact. Sometimes he ends up on these mysterious journeys. He's quite cryptic about where he was going. But we are on the State of the Union podcast. Our good friend Alexi Lalas was at the actual State of the Union, or you could say this is the actual State of the Union, but he was at the one with the president in D.C., so rubbing some esteemed shoulders, was he?
In honor of that State of the Union, I was going to request a crowd today, and when you dropped the take, half of them would get up and clap, the other half would stay seated.
Nice. He has been very active today on Twitter. He's always active, let's be honest. He loves getting involved.
What are we yelling about today?
Yes, what are we yelling about? We're yelling about the fact that you're skipping on another pod, but also very happy because we get to enjoy some time together. So, should we light this candle, Mosse? What we got today, man?
Let's do it. So the UEFA Champions League playoff round is in the books. We'll take them in order. Early Tuesday, Atletico Madrid claimed a 4-1 home win over Club Brugge to advance 7-4 on aggregate. Johnny Cardoso started for Atleti, played well, including scoring his first goal for Atletico, a sensational strike early in the second half. He also played well the previous weekend against Espanyol. So with the March window approaching, suddenly there's some Johnny buzz.
What did we say? Here's Johnny. Johnny is starting to look really, really good right now. And it was a tough transition for him from Betis to then Atletico Madrid because he had some injuries. He was out with an ankle. Then he picked up another injury. So it was just kind of start for Johnny at the beginning. But I will say, since the turn of the year, he has found his way into the team for Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid. He has been a very key player for them, and he got a goal in the Champions League, as you referenced yesterday. So before this pod, I went and made sure and watched him from start to finish of that game, and pretty specifically, because sometimes we see him with two in midfield, and sometimes we see him a little further forward. In this case, Atletico Madrid are playing 5 in the back. They're playing essentially 3 in front with Koke and Baenas. And then Johnny is playing as a 6. So he is the lone defensive midfielder tasked with a lot of cutting off passing lanes, being an outlet in possession. I think a lot of how he was actually playing in Brazil before he moved to play in Europe. And boy, he was so impressive. I'm not just impressed with his ability to pass the ball and get out of pressure, because we knew that Johnny had that. But what I really love from him in this game, you can see he has the range to get out and to close down passing lanes, to win second balls, to be in the right place at the right time. So he's playing the best he has played in a very long time, so well that I just don't see a world in which Johnny is not called up for these March friendlies. You have to give him one more look. And I know there's this constant debate about, look, the weight of the shirt at times has looked too heavy for Johnny Cardoso. And I'm talking about the U.S. shirt. He's been great with his club, comes in for the national team, and then all of a sudden looks out of sorts. If you look back at some of the games he's played as well, it was a little bit of a transitional period for the U.S. So different roster, different formation, not coming in at 100%, still carrying some different injuries. He hasn't played well. So I'm not making full excuses. The reason I'm mentioning all of this is I think he deserves, through his play, This is a guy playing every week and scoring now in the Champions League. He deserves one final chance with the U.S. in March to prove to Pochettino that he can be in that roster for the World Cup.
Yeah, and if we're treating Weston McKennie now as one of those two underneath the striker in a 3-4-2-1, it does essentially open up a central midfield spot. You've obviously got Tyler Adams, and then Johnny would be battling people like Tessman, Christian Roldan, Sebastian Berhalter. Now, here's my question for you. If Pochettino were to take a Roldan or Berhalter over Johnny, how does he explain that to Javier Aguirre, who made it clear the other day with his comments about Obed Vargas that if you play for Atletico Madrid, that automatically puts you above any MLS player?
Yeah. You don't instantly get better the second you land across the pond. An ode to Alexi Lalas. Although I can discount that slightly because I did that. I left MLS. I didn't instantly become a better player the second I touched down, but I did feel by playing in a better environment, playing against better players, I was forced to raise my own level of competitiveness, of learning about the game. When you're playing against that many players every single day in training, you're learning a lot from their tendencies and how they move in the passing lanes. And so while I know Alexi loves to bang that drum, I do think there is an element of these players get better in a better environment. You get too comfortable. For Obed Vargas, he's in a situation, he was one of the best players in MLS over the past couple of years. You're only going to know if you have that other level if you go and challenge yourself. So, yeah, I think that's also what I think what Aguirre was saying was being taken a little out of context, honestly. I think it's merely saying, look, maybe I didn't quite see everything that this kid had, and if he's being seen by one of the best clubs in the world, I think he deserves a secondary look. Where do you stand on Johnny? Because I know you've followed him for some time, and I want to spend a little bit more time on him because I think he becomes such an interesting player of how people, if we just went back 10 years, even the thought of not bringing a player that was playing in the Champions League that was American that would not make a World Cup roster, that just seems like that wouldn't be in the conversation.
Yeah, to your point before, it was towards the end of his time at Internacional under Eduardo Coudet when he started playing as a 6 that I really thought he played well, and then he carried that over into Betis. Atletico Madrid, when he's been fit, he started more often than not. I do think Simeone rates him. So, yeah, I agree with you. In this March window, he does deserve another look for sure.
Yeah, I guess it also is dependent on the way in which the U.S. are going to play. And I haven't seen the best of Johnny when he's playing in a 2. I typically see the best of him when he is as the 6, which would put him in direct competition with Tyler Adams. So then you ask, can Tyler play a little further up? Do you play 3 in midfield? Could he be the one more, not further up in the spot of Weston, but maybe a little bit more licensed to go? Because I think Johnny's a better passer out of the back than Tyler Adams is.
Johnny doesn't have to start.
Yeah.
He could essentially be the backup to Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
So maybe
exactly.
that's the role. Now, the other 3 Atleti goals were scored by Alexander Sorloth. Lest anybody believe that Erling Haaland is Norway's only big, burly, prolific center forward. As an owner in La Liga, you've gone up against this guy the last few years. Yeah. Sorloth, one of the most underrated strikers in Europe.
Well, that's the thing. We had this conversation when Norway qualified, and the headliner is Erling Haaland. But they have Odegaard, Sorloth, Nusa. They have some real talent. They have big center backs. There's a reason people are talking about Norway in the way in which they are, and it's not just because of Haaland. A one-man team does not exist in soccer at the World Cup that can take you anywhere meaningful. And for Norway to have Sorloth scoring goals the way he is a handful. So I just would hate to be any defense that would play against the 2 of those guys and dealing with crosses with guys that are 6'5", barreling down on you, Vikings, just smashing the ball in the back of the net.
Speaking of Norway, Bodø Glimt continued their incredible Cinderella run. Remember, they beat Manchester City and Atletico Madrid in the last 2 match days of the league phase to advance to the playoff round. And now they take out last season's runners-up, Inter Milan, winning both legs. It was 3-1 in Norway last week. And then they go to the San Siro and win 2-1, advance 5-2 on aggregate. How about that?
This is a soccer hipster's dream. This club to fall in love with a team like Bodø Glimt. I was watching that second leg, and for the first 30 minutes, Bodø Glimt were playing in a 4-4-2, pretty defensive structure. They were looking to play in transition. I just felt by looking at the first leg score, Inter's, it's only a matter of time before they score, right? I mean, that's what happens historically. They had that crazy series with Barcelona last year. And there was chance after chance after chance for Inter, but Bodø Glimt didn't even look phased. The way they hung tough, they had an incredible mentality. They get a goal in the game, and And then you're thinking, okay, now they're going to sit back and park the bus. Their second goal, I think it was one of the best goals we've seen in Europe this season. And then they get another goal later. It was it was 2-1 rather. Inter scored and made it a little iffy, but the game was done. They're incredible and they look a handful. They're a team that has momentum, belief. They're a tough team to play against away, and it's kind of a fun story to watch in the Champions League this season.
Leverkusen and Newcastle also advanced on Tuesday. We go to Wednesday. Juventus at home looking to overturn a 5-2 first leg defeat to Galatasaray. Locatelli scored from the penalty spot in the first half. Then Kelly was sent off early in the second half. You thought Juventus was dead, but even down a man, Gatti 2-0. And then Weston McKennie with a header made it 3-0 on the night, 5-5 on aggregate. We go to extra time. In the extra time, though, Osimhen and Yilmaz with goals. So 3-2 on the night, 7-5 Galatasaray on aggregate. They advance. Weston McKennie and company are out.
They are out. Valiant effort from Juventus. I actually thought when they got it back to 3-0 that they could get the job done and go on and finish it. And then, as you said, Galatasaray kind of blew them away, and it seemed they exerted so much energy. But really, this was lost in the first leg by losing 5-2. Weston McKennie, it should be of note. First leg plays as a striker. Second leg plays as a, left back, and was not only a excellent defender. He played multiple positions basically within the game. The way he attacks, he still covers ground. He's still such a flexible and industrial type of player. He added a goal in the game, so still gets his head on set pieces and is such a menace in set pieces. I'm telling you, sometimes you just think, right place, right time for these guys. Weston, it's not that way, okay? These guys that know how to score on set pieces have such an ability to read the flight of the ball, to attack the ball when it's up in the air, to beat a defender, to get the right timing on the jump. And Weston is that guy on set pieces. So he's a real threat. He will be a big threat for the U.S. this summer if we can sort out the delivery and make sure that is sorted, because you have to give these guys a chance. Weston McKennie becomes the third Juventus midfielder to double-digit goals. Quite a stat for him and a glowing endorsement of just how important he has been for Juve. So I know your tendency at times when you see a player that plays multiple positions is to say, well, he's got all these different skills, but he hasn't mastered any position. He's a jack of all trades. But I think for Weston, what he has proved is he can redefine that role in a way that he just proves he has such immense value to the team, no matter where he is, that the coach wants to have him on the field. So I don't think it's that he's just good at a number of different things, because he is, but he is a great competitor. He is a great leader that you want on the field and that can rise to the big moments. And that's the difference between just being a guy that can plug gaps versus being a guy that a coach clearly says, in Spalletti, says, I need him on the field no matter what. So where's it going to be today? Left back. West, you're going to play left back. Go get the job done. And he did. And he looked great throughout the 90 minutes. And as we said, they fell out of steam.
Juve clearly appreciate what they have. There are reports that Weston McKennie has signed a contract extension through 2030. He's going to be earning 4 million euros per year, it sounds like. So Weston committing his long-term future to Juventus.
Can I say something too about the 4 million euros? It's a big number, okay, in European soccer. And I think sometimes there's a misperception about the amount of money that some of these players earn at big clubs or mid-tier clubs or even just in a top league. Weston McKennie could have come back to MLS, and I guarantee you he would have pulled in more than 4 million net euros for a salary for a team. I know there was some rumors last year about Cincinnati or whoever it would be, but if he said, I want to come back and I want to play in MLS, there would be a team in MLS that would pay him a lot more money than that. And that's what happened when Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Clint Dempsey, all of these players came back to MLS. They were offered sums of money that they couldn't turn down. And I think Weston would have been getting offers much more than the $4 million, but it says a lot, or euro, it says a lot about him as well, that he says, I have unfinished business here in Europe. I love the club. I love playing in the Champions League. I love going toe-to-toe with some of the best players and teams in the world. And I'm going to commit my future as long as Juve committed to me and paid me an amount that made me feel like a top earner and what I'm achieving on the field. But I think sometimes that goes under the radar when you consider Chucky Lozano's making $7.5 million or something like that at San Diego. Some of these guys are getting a lot more money than $4 million euros in MLS, and he could have come back and achieved a lot more money.
The focus for Juve now is trying to qualify for next season's Champions League. They're 5th in Serie A. Big game at the weekend. They're away to 4th place Roma. So Weston's got to get right back at it. Also, on Wednesday in the Champions League, Real Madrid claimed the 2-1 home win over Benfica. Benfica scored first with Rafa Silva, but then Tchouaméni came right back and equalized. In the second half, Vinicius Jr. got the winner. So 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. Real Madrid move on. This tie, though, marred by the whole Vinicius racism, Michigas in the first leg. There was an odd vibe with today's match. You want to comment on any of that?
Yeah, I just felt like at the end of the day, all this stuff that was going on and off the field and heading into the game and where Mourinho was going to be watching the game. There's so many big characters and big storylines. But at the end of the day, Real Madrid did what Real Madrid did, which is they turn up in the big nights in the Champions League. They had superior quality to Benfica. Benfica actually kept this tie closer than I thought they might. By getting the goal, even they made it a little bit more interesting today, and then Vini Jr. gets the second goal and finished them off. So
I will say, I was talking to my dad on my way in, and let's never take Thibaut Courtois for granted. He made a couple of mind-boggling saves today. You wonder where Real Madrid would be without him. Usually you don't think of clubs of that stature needing their goalkeeper to bail them out as often as Real Madrid needs Courtois, but he seems to always come through.
I think that's a good point by you. I think sometimes it just gets brushed under the rug how good he is. And by the way, Belgium felt that when he was turning down call-ups and not wanting to come back to the national team. And also the sheer size, the command you have of the box. He has an aura, and that is it goes hand in hand with a club like Real Madrid.
Mbappe's been banged up lately, and you could tell Vinicius has really grown into that role of feeling like the man again. He's playing great, but you wonder if they can ever get the best of Vinicius and the best of Mbappe at the same time. It doesn't seem to work out that way. It seems like it always has to be one or the other kind of leading the way.
I know. It's almost like they need some version of a kumbaya, the two of them to.
They get along.
Yeah, I know, but I just mean
from a footballing sense,
a footballing standpoint, to find the harmony that we've seen. We've seen it in moments when both of them are on. They're almost they're unstoppable.
As for Mbappe's former club, reigning champions PSG, they advanced today, but they made hard work of it against Monaco. They were at home protecting a 3-2 advantage. Monaco actually took the lead through Akliouche. Then the key sequence in the second half, Koulibaly got sent off for Monaco. Very harsh second yellow, I thought. PSG take advantage. Marquinhos 1-1, then Kvaratskhelia 2-1. Monaco actually equalized late with Teze, and so they made things interesting. It was 2-2 on the night. PSG advanced 5-4 in aggregate. Balogun, who had scored twice in the first leg, started this one unable to find the back of the net.
Yeah, unable to find the back of the net, went 74 minutes. I just love American players, especially in a World Cup year, getting knockout Champions League matches on big nights. There's pressure, there's expectations, there's a chance to really test and prove yourself a little bit. So he rose to that occasion in the first leg, didn't have as many chances in this match and was subbed off, and Monaco made it close. I haven't seen the PSG I saw from last season, which was at least in the Champions League, that same version yet. But sometimes it's an even scarier version of a team like them if they can just keep limping through. I think from round to round, it's about really just advancing and then getting to the next round and building form and momentum as you go. And so for PSG, they were able to scrape by and get to the next round.
Crazy one.
This game was
early
crazy.
Today in Bergamo. Yeah. Atalanta were looking to overturn a 2-0 deficit against Dortmund. Yunus Moose, an unused sub. We don't even talk about him anymore. But it was Scamacca 1-0, Zappacosta 2-0, Pasalic 3-0. But then Adeyemi scored to level out the tie. And then virtually the last kick of the game, VAR spotted a penalty in the box. Ben Sebaini whistled for it. Samardzic converted. So 4-1 on the night, 4-3 on aggregate. Atalanta advanced. Dortmund are out. We were very close to having no Italian teams left in the competition, but Atalanta scraped through.
And Samardzic stuck that penalty. I talk about pressure. What was basically the last kick of the game. Atalanta get a penalty. Italian soccer have been really struggling in Europe. A chance to win the tie, and boy, he stuck it top bins. It was about as perfect a penalty that you can do under all that pressure. The game was crazy, though, the way Atalanta were scoring and scoring and scoring. And then Dortmund, punched back and made the tie a little bit more interesting. But I thought Dortmund were really weak on the night, just some big mistakes at the back. And it is a lifeline for Italian soccer even to have Atalanta. But I will say, look, I know we kind of brushed over the Yunus Musa thing. It's so disappointing, isn't it? It's that he, from 4 years ago, has found himself in a situation where he was one of the bright young talents, was talked about so highly, was excellent for Valencia, makes this move to AC Milan. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't good. Then moves for a pretty good sum of money to Atalanta and can't get a sniff of the game. He's not even remotely in the picture right now for the national team. So I don't see a way in which he makes the World Cup. We've said that over and over, which is why we just brushed by. But it's sad. It's sad to see for such a young player end up in these situations where, for whatever reason, he just is not finding his way.
The playoff round is in the books. The draw for the round of 16 is Friday. The way it works is teams are broken up into 4 little quartets. So we'll see if you can follow me here. PSG and Newcastle are grouped with Chelsea and Barcelona. So either Chelsea or Barcelona are going to get PSG, and then the other one is going to get Newcastle. Then you've got Atletico Madrid and Galatasaray are grouped with Liverpool and Tottenham. So either Liverpool or Tottenham are going to get Atletico Madrid. The other one is going to get Galatasaray. Then Real Madrid and Bodø Glimt are grouped with Manchester City and Sporting. So either City or Sporting are going to get Real Madrid, and then the other is going to get Bodø Glimt. And then Leverkusen and Atalanta are grouped with Bayern Munich and Arsenal. So Bayern will get either Leverkusen or Atalanta, and then Arsenal will get the other. The headliner there is we could have Real Madrid, Manchester City, and then whoever PSG get versus either Barcelona or Chelsea is going to be very tasty.
Yeah, can we pop that graphic up one more time? I just want to. I'm looking at those clubs. That's a sexy list, right? I mean, that's those are some heavy hitting clubs right there. I think who would be the teams though? You would say ideally you'd want to draw. It would be the non-traditional powerhouses, right? I mean, the Bodø Glimt story is it's romantic.
With all due respect to Bodø Glimt, your choices if you're City or Sporting or Real Madrid or Bodø Glimt. Talk about like the opposite ends of pedigree.
Look, Tottenham right now, too. There was a lot of talk about, Tottenham are a relegation candidate currently in the Premier League, but they did not have the strongest of group stages of teams they played against, but they deserve their spot in this list. But I would say between them, Atalanta, you could say Galatasaray, although they looked pretty good today against Juventus and Bodø Glimt. But, man, that's shaping up to be a pretty awesome end to the Champions League here.
We also have Europa League and Conference League action on Thursday. Guys like Austin Trusty, Chris Richards involved in that. But we look ahead to the weekend in the Premier League. Leeds United will host Manchester City. Brendan Aronson looking to continue his good form. City, of course, involved in a title race. They're 5 points back of Arsenal, but with a game in hand. Arsenal with a tough match this weekend. They host Chelsea. So City have to be looking at this weekend as a possibility to gain some ground. But we're obviously focused on Brendan Aronson and Leeds. What do you expect to see from him?
I've been paying. It's weird how this works, but my son and I and my daughter we started a fantasy Premier League team this year, and I kind of started it with them just because I thought it would be a fun way to help them have a little bit more of an attachment to some of the games and learn different players. My son is obsessed with trading cards, and my daughter loves soccer and all this stuff. I think I underestimated how much more I would end up loving and caring and watching these games and being invested in it with them. So, whether you've got City players and Arsenal players, whatever, all of that to say, I've been watching a lot more Premier League in the early mornings than I have because I watch a lot of La Liga and then I watch MLS throughout the day and different things. But Man City, I just, in watching them play, they have been a team, I still think they're going to beat Arsenal to the title. There's just a feeling that I have of a group that has been there before, that knows how to squeeze that little bit extra, to continue to drive the knife a little bit further, and any slip up that Arsenal have, boom, they're right there. Anytime you're watching Man City right now, every time you think, okay, the game's 2-2, they've let this one go, boom, they find a way to get the win. But a game on the road against Leeds is a game that you might have some difficulty. Arsenal didn't recently. They went to Leeds and absolutely smashed them off the field that day. But that was a lot of heavy hitting, big set pieces. And you're playing against a Leeds team that's playing with some desperation and some fight. And so I'm curious to see. And then looking at Fulham, Tottenham, it has been a weird season for Jedi Robinson. Really struggled with injury at the beginning of the year. Really started to come into form, get some regular games for Fulham. Missed the last match with an ankle knock. So I think just my hope for him is that he finds ways to avoid these little niggling injuries and missing time, and something that can build into something bigger, because we definitely need him healthy and fit and available for the World Cup.
You know, Stu, I'm supposed to tee you up on each game. You kind of threw off
I
our
know.
graphics
Sorry, I was
people
just
by
on
jumping.
I was on a.
By the way, can we go back to Arsenal for 1 second? How about our producer, Trip Westmoreland, dropping a shocker before we started taping? He's an Arsenal fan. He said he would take Arsenal finishing second again if it meant Tottenham got relegated.
Which I posed back at him. Would Tottenham fans take relegation to see Arsenal not win the Premier League? What do you think?
You have to ask a Tottenham fan.
I don't know. I have some
We have
Tottenham
Jason Wormser on the horn?
Tottenham buddies who are like, they want everything.
Well,
for Arsenal not to win the
famously, a
league,
couple years
obviously.
ago, Tottenham hosted Manchester City late in the season. Tottenham still had a chance to finish in the top four, but City were battling Arsenal eyeball to eyeball for the title, and Tottenham fans were rooting against their own team. Remember how angry Postecoglou got about that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, to your point.
I do think that. I think some Tottenham fans, you would find a Tottenham fan that would say, look, I'll take 1 year in the championship. We feel confident we'll come right back up to see Arsenal not lift that trophy, which is absurd to me. It's insane.
No, but from Tripp's perspective, that's ridiculous. Arsenal haven't won a Premier League title in over 20 years. Really, you hate Tottenham that much that you would throw away this golden opportunity to win it just to see Tottenham get relegated?
Tripp's off his mind.
Out of his mind.
He's out of his mind.
On the topic of Jedi and Fulham, you know, last weekend against Sunderland, the match day squad comes out. He's not even on the bench. Myself, Sean, and Tripp were furiously trying to look up and see what it was. And eventually we came upon Marco Silva's comments that it was some sort of injury. But it just speaks to what an odd year it's been for Jedi. It actually crossed my mind he might have just been left out of the squad.
Yeah.
Because his playing time has been so inconsistent this season.
It has, and I think that was, I guess, an encouraging statement. Not that he was injured, but that he was,
when you see,
he was
you don't
left
want
out for
him, you
a
don't want him
reason.
to be hurt, but at least he's okay. It's not any technical decision.
I think you're in the same vein as me, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners to this podcast. Of as soon as the lineup sheet comes out, the first thing I do is I look for the American players. I look to see if they're starting. I look to see if they're on the bench. If they're not on the bench, I hit X and I start searching away on X or Google or wherever to try to find and to see if there was an injury or anything that was concerning. That's the life of an American soccer fan. We have very few guys that are playing overseas at big teams, and we want them all to succeed. I'd hope, unless we had the Arsenal Tottenham situation and Tripp's rooting for, Jedi Robinson's ankle to go out if he's playing at Tottenham or something horrible. Tripp would never, would he?
I don't know. Manchester United will host Crystal Palace. Manchester United 5 wins and 1 draw under Michael Carrick. So Chris Richards has a tough battle on his hands. We know Richards is a warrior. Did you see this past weekend against Wolves?
I did. That clash
involved in a collision,
man. Yeah.
and he had to play the game with like a bandage on his head. We'll see what he can do this weekend against that dangerous United attack.
Indeed, Man United on fire. They've been terrific under Michael Carrick. They just have a belief and we've covered this, I think, last time we were on the podcast as well, just about Man United and looking inspired and a team that's playing a little bit freer. So Chris Richards on the other side of that. Crystal Palace got an important win the other week, but they have been in free fall for
the
Glasner.
Oliver Glasner situation is bizarre.
What a mess!
To me.
It's a mess from everybody though. Glasner, the club. I mean, when you've made it clear that you want to leave, that's fine. But then to hold that as a secret and then to release it, and then basically the team has free fallen since. Why? I get it as well. You also lose a little bit of that connection with players in a way when they feel like, well, why am I going to keep running through a wall for you? You're leaving at the end of the year. You're not part of this project anymore. So I think the right decision in hindsight, which I know it's a tough one because this guy and Oliver Glasner has been so successful since he has come to Crystal Palace, but would have just said, look, let's shake hands. We're going to go and find a new manager, and we're going to start the life without you.
We go to Serie A. AC Milan will be away to Cremonese. AC Milan in second place, but 10 points back of Inter. We are 3.5 months out from the World Cup. Give me your overall thoughts on Christian Pulisic right now.
I'm still content with where Pulisic is. I think in an ideal world, you'd like to see Christian Pulisic pick back up the form that he had to start the season and towards the tail end of last year. For whatever reason, and I don't think we can pinpoint a single exact reason that would be unfair to him. And you can't say, wow, because he missed this and he didn't turn up at the Gold Cup and the injuries have become, because the injuries are there. And because of that, then he has found a disruption to his form, to his confidence. And then now there's competition for places. There's more pressure for AC Milan to get back into the Champions League and push for the Scudetto. So I think just my hope for Christian Pulisic is that they continue to manage his minutes and his mentality in a way that gets him back healthy. But ideally, he ends up picking the type of form that we saw from him at the beginning of the season, because Milan need a healthy Pulisic. The U.S. men's national team need a healthy Pulisic. And not just healthy, you need a top-level, high-performance Pulisic that can handle the rigors of consistent matches, high performance, scoring goals, getting assists, being that guy that wants to and is not second-guessing things. Because I think we're seeing him having a little bit of self-doubt once again about, is his body starting to verge into that territory again of not being able to handle what he ideally wants to be performing at.
And we should note, you are rocking an old-school AC Milan jersey today.
Yeah, what do we think?
Do you know what year that's from?
It's from the early 90s. I don't have the exact
That's like
year.
Savicevic, Boban, Desai.
Yeah, and then after
era.
that, you had the George Weah era. And so I picked up this one, thanks in part to Lotto. It looks...
it looks sharp.
It's sharp, yeah. I actually got a lot of comments walking around with this one. I wore it to the Galaxy game of the weekend, and people were like, dude, is that old school AC Milan? That's sweet. So, retro kits are a thing, man.
We go to Spain next. Barcelona will play host to Villarreal. Barcelona 1 point ahead of Real Madrid at the top of the table. Alex Freeman so far has made 3 substitute appearances for Villarreal. He's played a total of 31 minutes. If he gets on the field here, going up against Rafinha, Lamine Yamal and company, that would be quite the test for him.
Indeed, he's not seen a ton of minutes, Alex Freeman, since moving to Villarreal. He was an unused sub for them at the weekend. I think some of this is expected. This is a Villarreal team that's playing really well in La Liga. To break into that squad was always going to take some time, especially in a position that could be key for them as a right back. So my hope for him is that in his limited minutes and opportunities, he performs well, he trains well, he earns that over time. But it's going to be interesting to see the shape of Alex Freeman in the March windows. He'll 100% be called up by Pochettino. He's been a key player for the U.S. under Mauricio Pochettino. And then for the summer, because he was a beneficiary of a guy that was playing every single week, and you saw that in his confidence and his performances and what he was doing with Orlando. But to go from that to now playing 20 minutes, 15 minutes, it's different. So that's going to be the big question for Alex Freeman, is what version of him do we see in March? And does that give Mauricio Pochettino enough confidence that he can produce at a very high level come the summer? And can he find a way to get more minutes?
The last time you were with us, I remember you were watching a Mallorca-Sevilla game. Sevilla are away to Betis this upcoming weekend. And, I was thinking about this. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, they suck up so much of the oxygen in Spain. You don't realize there are some other great derbies, and Betis Sevilla is one of them. Those matches are always incredible.
Incredible. I actually visited Sevilla for the first time. Was it 2 years ago for the Copa del Rey final? What a great city it is in general. Just beautiful. Some real history in the architecture and all that. But you did get a feel of, there's the Sevilla shop, and you walk, another 20 yards, you've got the Real Betis shop, and then it's very much a city where you wear your flag, your colors, and you wear them with pride, and you identify with one of those teams. It's a big deal.
On the topic of derbies, in Germany, we have Der Klassiker this upcoming weekend. Dortmund will host Bayern. And, on Monday's show, I proclaimed the Bundesliga race over because Bayern went 8 points clear. I neglected to look at the schedule. I didn't realize Dortmund was hosting Bayern this weekend. I mentioned I was like Tom Brokaw on election night calling races. If Dortmund were to win this game and knock it down to 5, then it would be like Florida in 2000. I would have to take it out of the decided column back into the too close to call. Dortmund, they crashed out of the Champions League today, but they've had a sneaky, great Bundesliga campaign under Niko Kovac. Only one loss in 23 games, and yet they're 8 points back because Bayern have been so lights out.
Isn't that insane? One loss, 23 games, and you're 8 points behind Bayern Munich. Now Bayern, even in Kompany's first season, it wasn't as good as this. This is terrific, the way that they are playing. They are unbeatable in essence. And if they ever drop a point, it's like, whoa, what happened to Bayern this week? Every time I check the score sheet there, Harry Kane scored 1, if not 2.
I remember we did a pod together a few months ago in which we lavished praise on Harry Kane. And I revisited that topic recently when he reached 500 career goals for club and country. I still maintain he's been the best player in the world this season. Are you on that page?
I am too, yeah. And also, we saw him at that time playing as a withdrawn center midfielder. He's been playing more of his traditional as a striker. His efficiency, I think it's such a compliment to him that we take it for granted. We take for granted that the amount of goals. And I think sometimes it is also discounted when you say, well, it's Bayern Munich. They're the best team in the league by a mile. Not every striker has done what Harry Kane or Lewandowski or strikers before them have done to the same extent and the same volume of goals. Sure, he's getting more chances, but Harry Kane was scoring 20-plus goals for Tottenham Hotspur when Tottenham weren't one of the top 4 teams in the Premier League. So this guy he's so good, so good. And I would go with you there and say he is not just the best striker, but the best player in the world right now.
Fun one in France this upcoming weekend. Marseille will host Lyon. Lyon are 3rd. Marseille are 4th. Lyon had won 13 in a row in all competitions, but they suffered a defeat to Strasbourg last time out. A little bit of the Endrick shine is coming off. A couple of bad performances in a row, but from an American perspective, Timmy Weah on one side, Tanner Tessman on the other.
Indeed. Looking forward to that. I love seeing Tessman continue to get minutes and look good for Lyon. For Marseille, the same thing with Tim Weah. I will say, though, for Endrick, and you were very quick on the rapid-fire texting, Mosse. As soon as Endrick anything, Endrick assist, boom, I get a text. Endrick goal, boom, I get a text. I think this is what you would expect, though, from a 19-year-old player who's, like, he's finding life of what life is like to have to be a key player every single week and playing with that pressure. And to where guys like you are sitting here saying, wow, Endrick hasn't scored in a couple of games now. Let's hit the panic button a little bit. I think it's some of what you would expect. You're going to get some extreme highs. You're going to get some lows. Everybody is excited about his arrival. I haven't watched as much of him as you have in recent weeks, but I wouldn't be so worried. But again, this is another opportunity for him in a game like this against Marseille to come up with a big moment and reinstate that, the kid's got something about him.
I've moved on to another teenager. Have you seen this Ryan for Bournemouth?
Oh, yeah.
The goal he almost scored against West Ham, that would have been something.
He's got the Bournemouth find a way to find some real talent too. Some younger players. Their recruitment and selling, Dean Howson for what was it, 50+ million to Real Madrid. They keep finding whoever they get, then they replace it with another player, and they've got a good young coach as well.
Iraola,
Iraola,
Ryan essentially replaced Semenyo, who went to Manchester City in January. The last of our derbies here.
Aye, the old firm derby, pal.
People might not realize this because you don't have an accent, but you were actually born in Scotland, so I know you have a lot of time for Scottish football. This could be a historic campaign because Hearts are threatening to become the first team other than Rangers or Celtic to win the title since Sir Alex Ferguson's Aberdeen in the mid-'80s. It's been 40 years. Hearts are at 60, Rangers 56, Celtic 54, but they've played one fewer game than the other two. This upcoming weekend, Rangers will host Celtic. What do you make of it?
Well, you reference Aberdeen. I was a young Scot born in 1985 in Aberdeen, and I was born in the mid-'80s when Aberdeen were a top side, Sir Alex Ferguson. So I love and would love nothing more from a neutral perspective, but not so neutral because I grew up playing for the Aberdeen School of Excellence, so I was in their academy as a 8, 9, and 10-year-old. It would be so awesome to see somebody else win other than Celtic and Rangers. Like, it was much the way that I loved Leverkusen winning the Bundesliga last 2 years ago, because it just sometimes it gets a little boring when it's the same clubs winning and it's Celtic and Rangers. And I know those fans don't think it's boring because they're winning titles. And I know sometimes you need these big teams to win because you need them in the Champions League, and they are big clubs and they bring notoriety. And this is a game which attracts viewers from outside of Scotland. But Hearts, what they're doing this season, and owned by the same owners as Brighton, and they've brought some of the recruitment and a way in which they're doing it. It would be awesome to see somebody win. But that also brings a lot more pressure to a game like this. And if Celtic were to lose, and also Rangers are in second, but I still think Celtic are the biggest threat to Hearts winning the Scottish Premier League. So it means a lot. This is a big game for both teams, even bigger than what it would be normally.
And by the way, I think Sir Alex Ferguson's time at Aberdeen boosts his case for being the greatest manager of all time, because it proves he could do it somewhere else too. He really broke up that Celtic Rangers duopoly for a few years, won several league titles, won a Cup Winners' Cup with Aberdeen, beating Real Madrid in the final.
Indeed, yeah, the glory days of Patadri, man. That was something.
So just to round out the segment, we just talked about Rangers, Celtic, Dortmund, Bayern, Betis, Sevilla. Do you have a favorite derby in the world, or one that you mentioned you've attended some of these games? There's one that you'd love to actually go to that you haven't witnessed it.
This is insane to say, actually. I've traveled so many different places around the world, and because of soccer, because of football, it's given me my life. I played professionally, got to visit many countries. As a broadcaster, I've been to some really obscure places I didn't think I would ever travel, like Qatar and Russia and Vancouver or Canada, all you name. I have never in my life visited South America, not a single country. And I've been learning Spanish to speak fluently, and I think I just feel that I would love to go to Boca River. It is a game that I don't know why it jumps off the page for me as a rivalry that just has so much passion and intensity and flares, fireworks, like crazy stuff. The stadium is bouncing. I would love to go and experience that and sing and chant and be there for 90 minutes and, be a little inebriated as well. It feels like part of the experience,
Big news, by the way, in Argentine football, Marcelo Gallardo leaving River Plate. But now, no offense to the Monumental, but I think you'd rather it be in La Bombonera, right? That's probably the crazier of the two venues.
Yeah, the Bombonera looks
Would
insane.
you root for Boca over River? Do you have a...
I don't know if I would. I think I would just go in neutral clothing for fear of ending up in trouble. I don't know. Or just going with whatever the home team is and just immerse myself in the experience. I'd like to go with some friends. So if you want to volunteer to come down to Argentina with me, let's sign up, man. Let's go do the dang thing.
One crazy one I wouldn't mind experiencing is Galatasaray Fenerbahce. Imagine how crazy those games must be.
Oh my gosh. In Turkey, I've seen the stands in those games and the fans. I think that's like, when you try to equate what these games are like or explain them to American sports fans, the first natural comparison ends up being college sports and college football. And you go down to the South, man, there's some awesome rivalries. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like the same, where it's like it's literally life or death for some of these fans in these moments. And go do it. Go check out some of these. Go do it safely, first of all, but go check out these games. This is what makes soccer so beautiful.
Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, I believe the only local derby between two clubs in different continents, because Istanbul is divided by the Bosporus Strait. Part of it is in Europe, and the other part of it is in Asia. So it's an interesting little subplot.
That adds to the...
Now, we were just talking about Celtic. They'd be in a much better position if they had just stuck with Martin O'Neill the whole time, hadn't wasted a month with Wilfred Nancy. We do have some news that we're going to address in the Ask Alexi segment related to MLS coaches and their struggles in Europe. Should we take a break and then talk about that? All right, let's take a break. All right, welcome back. It's Ask Alexi time. A reminder to the listeners out there, you can submit questions by either calling the voicemail box at 657-549-2297 or by using the hashtag Ask Alexi on all these social media platforms, and follow at State of the Union with Alexi. Stu, we don't really have a question today, but we have a piece of news we want to address. Former Minnesota United manager Eric Ramsey has been sacked by West Brom. He lasted just 9 games. This is on the heels, of course, of Wilfred Nancy lasting just 8 games at Celtic. So the MLS haters have been out in full force on social media. I'll read you one post on X by American Ultras Talk. He said, Wilfred Nancy lasted 8 matches at Celtic. Eric Ramsey lasted 9 matches at West Brom. If you wonder why most U.S. national team fans usually don't want a manager from MLS hired, this is why. The quality of players in MLS has improved a lot recently. The same now has to happen for managers. So I know you saw a lot of posts like that on X. It bothered you. You think this issue is a bit more nuanced than people are giving it credit for? You wanted to say something about it.
Yeah, well, respectfully, American Ultras Talk, that take is garbage. And because this is not some great indictment on the quality of coaches in Major League Soccer, because Eric Ramsey and Wilfred Nancy both, lasted 8 and 9 games respectively and, 30 or 40 odd days. They are not the first coaches that have failed in their first jobs in Europe. They won't be the last coaches that have failed in their first jobs in Europe. The reason I felt really strongly about coming in today and talking about this is because MLS is a different structure to Europe. That is nothing new. You know that. It is a single entity structure. There's no promotion relegation. There's playoffs. There is less pressure on the regular season than there is over in Europe, because you're dealing with a matter of immediacy. You're dealing with relegation. You're dealing with a different type of pressure. And because of that, the games are coached differently week to week. Eric Ramsey and Wilfred Nancy are both excellent coaches. They will still go on to have good coaching careers. Eric Ramsey is only 34 years old. And there has been some conversation about, well, why take these jobs if you're Ramsey and Nancy? Well, the reality is, because of the perception of Major League Soccer and the players and the coaches in the league, they're only in reality in contention for a certain caliber of job. And we're not going to see yet. This might happen further down the line, but we're not going to see right now Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Chelsea, you name it. They're not going to come and hire a coach from MLS to be their next coach, because the perception of those coaches is that level is still, there's room for improvement. It's the same reason why you don't often see coaches from mid-lower tier leagues in Europe get jobs at the highest clubs. You've got to kind of cut your teeth. So when Ramsey gets a call from West Brom and they're mid-low down in the championship, when Wilfred Nancy gets a call from Celtic, it's hard to turn those jobs down. But also, these coaches are available at a time when not a lot of other coaches in Europe are available, because they're coaching. Any good coach is still coaching a high-level team. So if you're Eric Ramsey and you're Wilfred Nancy, you've got to take a risk, and you have to take a leap of faith and say, I can turn this situation around. It might not be perfect. Celtic was not perfect when Wilfred Nancy went in, because they're dealing with board issues, recruitment issues. But there's a reason that job was available, and there's a reason you want to take it, and you want to back yourself. In both of these cases, they went into these jobs, they didn't succeed, they failed, but you had to take a leap of faith, because guess what? The hope is, if you're Eric Ramsey, I take that job at West Brom, I do well there, then I get the next job that's one tier up, which might be a lower level Premier League team, and then I can get the job that's a little bit higher. So it's not as simple as saying these guys are bad coaches. Sure, they took the wrong job at the wrong time. But what else do you want them to do? They come to MLS. MLS, for these guys that are aspirational, isn't the final landing spot. It is the means for, can I improve myself? Can I get to the next job? Can I get the next opportunity? It didn't go their way. But this does not mean that MLS coaches are bad. There's very good caliber of coaches in MLS. And in fact, some good coaches have come here and they haven't done well. So it's what I think you found with Ramsey as well. My last note on this is a 34-year-old coach that was naive. Wilfred Nancy was the same. He was too naive in the way in which he approached the pressures and the rigors and the type of player, and you have to change your coaching style a little bit to have success. Rant over.
I might piss people off by saying this, but let's be honest. The Scottish League and the English Championship, they're not the most evolved tactically. So failing in those leagues might mean you showed an inability to dumb down. They wanted to do things tactically that, just didn't quite
but
suit
also,
that.
This is part of coaching where Ramsey and Nancy both failed. You have your ideas, you have your principles, you have what's made you successful. It's so hard to then go away from that, but also to recognize what it takes in the moment to have success. Those are two different things sometimes. Sometimes you got to say, look, tactically, I know I want to do this, this, and this, but right now I've got to do this. And I think it's the same for Eric Ramsey. He knows what in his core, what he wants to do. But when it's not working, man, you've got to pivot fast. You have to analyze the situation. You have to find the way to get the best out of your players that you have at your disposal and do what you can do now to plug the holes in the ship and then worry about building the rest of the ship later and glitzing that part up in the way in which you want. And it's coaching's tough, man.
On the topic of coaching, I'm going to go off rundown here. Alexi and I recently had a discussion on the pod. I'm sure you've seen England have signed Tuchel to a contract extension to 2028. Brazil on the verge of signing Ancelotti to an extension through 2030. Neither one of those countries needed to wait and see what those guys do at this World Cup. And so I posed this hypothetical to Alexi. We all think Mauricio Pochettino views the U.S. as a short-term gig and he wants to go back to the Premier League. But let's say we're wrong about that and he's having a blast. And he would approach Matt Crocker today and say, hey, I'm willing to sign for another cycle. Would you take the bird in the hand now and give Pochettino that extension? Alexi blew up at me for even suggesting it. He said, absolutely not. Pochettino has to earn that at the World Cup. That's what he was brought in for. So it'd be ridiculous to give him an extension now. What say you?
I would think that Mauricio Pochettino getting an extension on a contract would be contingent on performance at the World Cup. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the gig. I remember this was actually before Emma Hayes became the coach of the U.S. women's national team. She was still coaching Chelsea, I believe, at the time. But she said something to the effect of it's a difficult job coaching international soccer because you're judged over a 6 to 7 game period in a 1 month, a 4-week period. And you could do great before that, but then you blow up there. It doesn't resemble the body of work that you can put together otherwise, but that's the gig. So Pochettino could win a bunch of friendlies, but you get to the World Cup and you crash out in the group stage. I'm not willing to take that bet right now without seeing him perform in a World Cup, and that's part of the job. That is the job.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to take another break. We didn't forget about MLS, folks. When we come back, we're going to do an MLS weekend/season preview, so stay with us. All right, welcome back. It's time for One for the Road. Normally, that would mean some meandering Alexi monologue about something, but he's not here, so we're actually going to use this real estate for something more substantive. We're going to look ahead to Week 2 of Major League Soccer. We have some exciting games to look forward to. Vancouver Whitecaps, we know last year runners-up in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, also runners-up in MLS. They started this MLS campaign with a 1-0 win over RSL. In Week 2, they will face Toronto. Toronto making big news off the field. They have finally gotten Josh Sargent over the line. Stu, what do you make of that? Josh Sargent coming back to MLS to play with Toronto.
I'm intrigued to see. He's scored a ton of goals in the championship for Norwich. He's had a fairly successful career in Europe, in Germany, and then in the UK. So it didn't end the way I don't think Josh Sargent or the Norwich fans would have liked. But I tell you what, man, I'm curious to see how much money he is making, because that's a big splash. A transfer fee north of $20 million is huge for Josh Sargent. And so can he handle the pressure of scoring goals for a team that has been really struggling for the past, 6-7 years, really, it's been for Toronto. They've reworked that roster. I think they've done a good job on paper looking at it, but I would put Sargent down for 10-plus goals for this MLS season. Where would you put him?
Oh, I think he'll play well. He'll knock in the goals. I have to keep reminding myself. I always say he's coming back to MLS. He actually hasn't played in MLS yet. He's one of those that left for Europe as a teenager.
Yep.
Also, this upcoming weekend, the Red Bulls will host New England. Your former teammate Michael Bradley now in charge of the Red Bulls. They claimed the 2-1 away win over Orlando last week. 17-year-old Julian Hall got both their goals. They also started 17-year-old Matthew Dos Santos, 16-year-old Adri Mehmeti. First time in MLS history, a team started 3 players aged 17 and under. What do you make of this youth movement under Michael Bradley?
I love it, man. Michael was made for this. His coaching lineage and his family is not a secret to anybody that is remotely a U.S. soccer fan. So Michael, one of the best midfielders we've had. He was a player I've been saying forever. He's a teammate that I knew would go on to be a coach, like I thought that Steve Cherundolo would. Michael will make an excellent coach. You can see his stamp on this team already. Mehmeti, by the way, wow. what a debut for that kid. 16 years old. He ran the show and deservedly got a lot of love that I saw on both social media and post-game and even during the broadcast from Dax McCarty. He's got something, man, so watch out for him. Also, I saw Michael Bradley's post-match speech. I thought I was watching Bob, man. It was scary. It was like mannerisms, the way he talked. It's going to be hard for him initially, I think even from my perspective too, to shake some of the comparisons to Bob. He's going to be his own version of a coach. But trust me, it's going to resemble a lot of what Bob represents because Bob is a fantastic coach. Bob is a legend. I'm interested to see where Bob lands again if he dips himself back into coaching. But right now, I'm sure he's watching, loving Michael Bradley become a coach. But yeah, I just think the way he talks about moments and this and intensity and like it's so Bob. It's crazy to me.
New England lost 4-1 to Nashville last weekend. A rough day at the office for Matt Turner. I expect him in goal again this weekend against the Red Bulls. Matt Freese expected to start for NYCFC away to Philadelphia. Doug McIntyre wrote a column recently saying that the U.S. coaching staff is going to be really watching Freese and Turner closely the next few months, that the U.S. goalkeeping battle is going to play out in MLS. Do you think there's still much of a battle there, or you think Freese clearly has the starting job for the World Cup?
I think Freese has got the starting job. I think from the goalkeeper position, it's an interesting take to think about unsettling a position. I think that's one position you want to commit to a player and a goalkeeper and say, you're our guy. Now, of course, you've still got to make sure you're playing well to keep that spot. But I think going back to the Gold Cup, after the Gold Cup, Pochettino and his coaching staff said, look, we've got to invest in somebody. We've got to have stability. We've got to have a leader. We've got to give him confidence as well to say, you're the guy. Be more vocal. Come out and command that box, because U.S. teams of the past have always had a goalkeeper that you could rely on and count on to have a big save. Matt Turner had a good World Cup in 2022, but I don't feel he had the aura that Tim Howard or Casey Keller or Miola or Friedel ever had in the nets before. And I don't know if Matt Freese, between now and the World Cup, can garner that type of aura. But I think you have to give him that opportunity. And by starting him in March, by seeing him gain confidence in MLS and keep that as that number one shirt, that's how you try to give him that leg up of being that guy and giving him more opportunities to make big saves and command the box and be that starting goalie for the U.S. that we need. And
then Philadelphia, who hosts NYCFC, you're going to get a look at them on Thursday night live on FS1. CONCACAF Champions Cup. They host Defense Force of TNT. Now, not much drama there. Philadelphia up 5-0 after the first leg. But give me your overall thoughts on the CONCACAF Champions Cup from what you've seen so far. Yeah, well, if you'd like to tune in tomorrow, John and I will probably have our MLS podcast going for 90 minutes. Dip into your rain delay material. If that one, yeah. We're going to dig deep in the archives, as you said. We'll see. We'll see if that one ends up being interesting. I don't think that from Defense Force. Philly in CONCACAF Champions League, we had our call today, a little preview of tomorrow night, but we talked to Bradley Carnell just about how, I think even going back a couple of years, we used to look at the CONCACAF Champions League, or now Cup, and say, look, you can only really battle on one front if you're an MLS team. If you do well in CONCACAF Champions Cup, it's going to detract from MLS. You've got to put everything into it to have success. I've actually seen a recent shift in the last couple of years where we've seen teams now have rosters that are deeper, have the quality and the ability to flip back and forth between, to call up guys from MLS Next Pro, to offset some of those minutes, manage those minutes to where actually now the expectation almost is that you can still do well in MLS and do simultaneously well in CONCACAF Champions Cup. So I think that's a real bonus and a plus for MLS. I expect it once again to be MLS versus Liga MX, and I would love to see MLS win this trophy. I think it's important. It was a bummer that Vancouver fell short in the final and everything and the way they went out last time as well. Yeah, so far so good for MLS. Obviously, Inter Miami and Seattle went straight into the round of 16. San Diego got there by taking out Pumas. You've already got LAFC and Nashville punching their tickets. As we said, Philadelphia definitely will. Cincinnati definitely will as well. They won 4-0 their first leg. The two that have left some work for themselves are the Galaxy and Vancouver, but still at home, you'd expect both those teams to get results. So looks like we're going to have a lot of MLS teams in the round of 16.
I'm excited, man. It's good. The more MLS teams, the better, baby. MLS is back.
I mentioned Inter Miami. That's the last MLS game we'll hit. Orlando hosting Inter Miami. Before we get to Messi and company, big news with Orlando. It looks like they're close to signing Antoine Griezmann. You've gone against this guy in La Liga the last few years. You can speak to the fact he still has it. That would be some sign.
That guy's got it. It was never a matter of if, it was always a matter of when with Griezmann. His flirtation publicly with American pop culture and basketball and soccer and MLS, it was rumored that he was going to move to LAFC at some point last year, decided to stay another year with Atletico Madrid. He has a lot of kids. So maybe that was the draw for him in Orlando. Disneyland, I would imagine you're going to see him a lot at Disney World, rather, down in Orlando. That would be a big coup for Major League Soccer. This is a World Cup winner, not just a World Cup winner. This was a main contributor for France in both of the last two World Cups with goals, assists, and he can still do it. He is consistently scoring goals in La Liga, and it would be, I would say, though, I was not expecting Orlando as the name that was going to pop up there for the club that would sign him. So exciting to see him come to this league, if it does happen.
Inter Miami, the overwhelming favorites to repeat as MLS Cup champions, but they got hammered in their opening game, lost 3-0 to LAFC at the Coliseum. Should we read too much into that? Or is that hope for the rest of the league, or no?
Don't read too much into that, but I think what you're seeing is a team that is, weird to say, in transition a little bit, because no Busquets nor Jordi Alba, some turnover at the back, new goalkeeper in Dane St. Clair, new striker in Berterame. So these pieces need time early in the season to adapt to Messi, to Mascherano, to the different ideas, and a lot comes quickly, but no chance I'm even stepping off the mountain that Inter Miami are the favorites for both CONCACAF Champions League and for MLS.
Lastly, because we tie everything to the World Cup, we actually have a lot of MLS players that I think are vying for spots in the World Cup squad. You've got your Miles Robinsons, your Tim Ream, Sebastian Berhalter, Diego Luna, Max Arfston, Fries and Turner we talked about. So an interesting subplot to MLS these next few months.
Well, Don Garber was out after week one saying that he feels MLS, and they would have all the stats on this, that it could be the league around the world with the most players of any at the World Cup.
Wow.
And if you consider, Panama, the various other teams in our region with Mexico and whoever, of different, it is a league. South Korea, you've got Son Heung-min, you've got a lot of players that play in this league that will be at the World Cup. But that would be a pretty cool stat for MLS to have, and it speaks to the amount of not just American talent, but worldwide talent that this league has.
And by the way, when I rattled off that list, I didn't even mention Christian Roldan, a guy who I think will be in the World Cup squad for sure.
Nice, man. Well, thanks for having me back, buddy.
Yes.
Next time I might have a bobblehead. And
no, we've come to the end of another show. Anything you're watching? Anything you want to talk about on that front?
Well, I watched the Olympics. The Olympics were awesome. So now outside of that, I want to get back into Shrinking, which I know is back on Apple. I really enjoyed that show with Jason Sudeikis. No, not Sudeikis. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. I'm messing it up. It's on Apple. Really love that with my wife. And man, I'm excited. You got a plug over there?
Yes, I want to plug an excellent book I'm reading. It's called The Typewriter and the Guillotine. Fascinating story. It's about this female writer, Janet Flanner, who moved to Paris in the 1920s and started writing pieces for The New Yorker chronicling life in Paris. And during the 1920s, they were pretty fluffy pieces. But then when you got into the 1930s, she saw the threat of fascism coming. She even traveled to Germany and did a profile on Hitler early in his political career. And so the dispatches started to get a lot darker. And then also there was a German serial killer on the loose in France in the late 30s, and he was caught, and he was the last person to be publicly guillotined. And so the author does a pretty good job tying that story to the larger story involving Janet Flanner. I'm almost done. I have one chapter left. As soon as we're done taping, I'm actually going to find a quiet spot here in the office and knock that out. The author, Mark Brode, I think is how you pronounce it. But yeah, The Typewriter and the Guillotine. Highly recommend it.
Nice, man. You got movie plugs, show plugs, book plugs. Brilliant.
Well,
how does he finish it again? Likes.
well, thanks as always. You
follow.
did a great job as always.
Yeah, love doing it, man. Lex, I know you're listening because you always send me texts after the fact about stuff that we said. So enjoy. Safe travels back, my friend. As always, thanks for joining us on the State of the Union podcast. You can find it on all your favorite podcast streams, channels, YouTube. Like, subscribe, smash that button as you do. And once again, size the day.